All right, looks like we're live testing out the brand new Wi-Fi. As you guys may know, in the past I've been doing my live streams on the my cellular network. So just fixed my Wi-Fi, got some new internet that's actually from 2017 and not from 2002. So hopefully we should be good to go. If it is a bad connection, let me know and we'll switch to cellular and get it fixed. So what are we going to talk about today? I'm going to kind of talk about how I've been settling in with my two contracts at one time. Also going to talk about some subcontracting. What's going on, Mark? Always one of the first ones here. I love to see that. So you're going to talk a little bit about some potential subcontracting opportunities that came up. As usual, going to give a channel/mentoring update, and then we'll dive into some Q&A. What's going on? I'm going to mispronounce that name. Mr. Luba, yeah, you see it. Hey, what's going on, Dilip? Hey, news. So as usual, I'm going to go ahead and talk for 4 or 5 minutes or so. What's going on, Alex? And feel free to keep asking questions while I'm talking, and then I'll hit up the Q&A afterwards. Just kind of giving a few more seconds. What's going on, Sean Cotton? What's going on, Reed? Yeah, just give a few more seconds to let people come in. But yeah, going to talk about some interesting opportunities that are potentially coming up with the subcontracting. So what's going on, Thomas? What's going on, Mohammed? All right, let's go ahead and dive in. So I've been settling in with my two contracts, 45 hours a week. This past week was the first week of doing that, because before I was working about 30 hours a week, and then I would do like YouTube on the side. So going from 30 to 45 is quite a big jump, and that's just, like I said, coding hours. I'm still doing all the stuff on top of it. So still trying to figure that out and settle in there, trying to figure out how to best manage my time when I work the best. You know, should I get up early morning? Should I work late night? Still trying to figure all that out. It is nice having two contracts though, because if I get stuck in one, or if I'm held up by like a designer or something like that, I can just switch to the other project. I'm not completely blocked. So that has been nice, being able to bounce back and forth, so I'm never, too stuck. Yeah, Mark, good point. I'm not complaining. But yeah, I just got to figure out the new schedule. And then, so the main point I wanted to talk about today was the subcontracting, and how I have turned down 3 contracts this week. And I kind of, like, it's great, like it's awesome to have like incoming work, but at the same time, it's kind of sucks to see like that work just going to nothing. So I feel like I have the pieces of opportunity here to do some subcontracting. Like, I have this YouTube channel is causing a nice inflow of contract opportunities. Now, obviously, I didn't go, give estimates and then finally tell them no. I just had to turn them down right away because I don't have availability. So so it's like I have these incoming opportunities, and then I'm also building a community of developers, up and coming, whether most are junior, but some have been doing it for a while. So it's like I have this community of developers that are looking for work, and I have this extra work. So it's kind of like I need to, bring those together somehow, and that's through subcontracting. However, I've never subcontracted before, and I got to do a lot of research on it. So if any of you out there have subcontracted, or on either side of it, been the subcontractor or the subcontractee, I guess would be the way to say it. I'd love to hear your feedback on that, because I am going to start looking to take on these new contracts and then subcontract out my work to hopefully some of you guys in the community, whether that's just the subscribers, or that's the Patreon community, or my students. Like I mentioned before, it's most likely going to go into the Patreon community and the students, only because those are the people I interact with pretty much every day. I've seen their code, I've seen their projects. So that's most likely who the subcontracting work will go to. But yeah, definitely interesting. Like I said, I don't want to just see this work go away. I want to, hopefully give it to you guys and hopefully help other people get their start in contracting. So it's kind of where I'm at with that. It's going to be interesting. Like I said, I got to do a lot of research on it, but let's catch up on some questions here. Sean says, I see that basketball. Yeah, got the basketball, the drone, the camera. What's going on, guys? Everybody just hopping in saying hi. Sean says, only if you don't need sleep, and that would be a good superpower. Yeah, I wish there was, I wish there was more hours in the day, that's for sure. Like, why can't the day be 35 hours long? That's what I would want. That's kind of why the YouTube channel has been slipping a little bit, because I've been working hard on that. And that concurrency and threading video, that took a lot. I know it was kind of a smaller video, or a shorter video, and it didn't seem like a lot. There wasn't a lot of coding, but man, that took a lot to put together. Really what took a long time was how to break down that idea because it's such a complex topic. So how to break that down into something that people could consume and understand quickly. So that was a tough video to make, but so glad that one's out of the way. On to more easier videos coming up this week. Doing the leveling up video this week, which is where I talk about how you have a bunch of different skill sets as a developer and you got to level each one up. Gonna do an Ask Me Anything from the Patreon community. That's coming this week too. Gonna do a vlog. I signed up for an event from, you guys know I preach cracking the coding interview a lot here in these live streams. Everybody has questions about it. So the author of that book is actually holding a yeah, Mark, I got new internet. We'll talk about that in a second. The author of that book is actually holding an event at the Lyft offices, the Uber competitor Lyft, here in San Francisco. So that's next week. I'm going to vlog about that too. So go ahead and meet the author. They're doing like a, software interview coding workshop. So that'll be fun to see. And then I'll definitely vlog that, bring you guys along. All right. Okay, so Sag says, I'm about to finish my Udacity nano degree, hopefully soon. What do I do next to get a job in the US? I'm from India. By the way, I love your videos. Are you looking to move to the US? Are you trying to work remotely? Because that's two different ways to go about it there. If you're looking to move to the US, just get here and start networking. Start meeting people here, go to meetups here in the city. There's tons of stuff going on in the startup community. You got to put yourself out there if you're going to move here. If you're going to try to work remotely from international, okay, there you go, move. Yeah, that's what I would do. And once you get here, start going to meetups, start trying to hit people up on Twitter, just start meeting people. I've said this before, it's pretty much who you know, not necessarily what you know. Yeah, Sean says, are you on high-speed internet now? Yes, finally. I mentioned this at the very opening, but nobody was really in here yet. My internet used to be 11.9 down, 0.8 up. Like, it was horrible. And then finally I got it fixed to, I think I'm at like 250 down, like 12 up. I don't know. So we're back to Wi-Fi now. We're off the cell service. So now I got to work on getting a proper live streaming setup so I don't have to do it on my phone. Because I really want to be able to show the chat box in the live stream so people can, oh, my first spammer. I feel privileged. All right, so yes, I am on high-speed internets. Sean, what are your thoughts on the guy from Google getting fired? I'm not jumping in there. I don't know enough about it. Like I've just read some headlines. I haven't read his manifesto, and I just know people are going crazy. The truth is, I don't want to speak on that because I don't know. But the truth is, I haven't like read it or know enough about it. I just read a couple headlines and see people freaking out on both sides, which is usually the case. Twice, do I have a girlfriend? I do not have a girlfriend here in SF. As you guys know, my time is very limited. It's a trade-off. Do I want to give up basketball or get a girlfriend? Basketball is my girlfriend. Do you have any siblings? I do have a younger sister. You guys are already, so like I said, I am doing an Ask Me Anything. The video I think will probably launch Monday. So I reached that out to my Patreon community to get some questions. So some of those questions are personal. They're not just all coding questions. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, keep an eye out for tomorrow's video. It's kind of a good segue to talk about the Patreon community, my usual weekly plug. Check it out. We have a Slack channel over there. You can post code review type stuff, Swift questions, career questions. And again, that's kind of how we're building a community, getting to know each other. People are posting questions and helping each other out. It's not just me and they're answering every single question. So it's also a good way to network. And like I said, if I do explore this subcontracting stuff, that's the community I'm going to go to first because, I've gotten to know them, seen their code, seen their projects. So check out patreon.com/Sean Allen. And sorry, my first spammer is distracting me. Anyway, yeah, check out patreon.com/Sean Allen for that. Let me catch up on some questions here. Okay, thanks, Mark, for the feedback on the stream because obviously wasn't sure. It always looks good on my end. Sean says, any thoughts on job fairs? Did you attend any? Actually, when I first came out to San Francisco, the whole reason I did like a scouting trip beforehand, and it was to come to like 2 or 3 career fairs, and I just blew them off when I came here. That's the sole reason I came out here was to tour San Francisco and go to those 2 career fairs before I moved out here, and I blew them off. Didn't go. It worked out, obviously, so that just shows you how much I believe in them. However, it depends on your location. Like here in Silicon Valley, I don't think you need to go to job fairs. But If your market is pretty limited, then I would do anything you got to do to get your name out there and network. So yes, job fair is great for networking. I've never really had success with them. What's going on, Ben? Kind of random. I just bought Cracking the Coding interview. How does it help you in regards to iOS development? It helped me with my computer science fundamentals, like knowing the data structures, queues and stacks, that sort of thing. Just having that understanding. Yes, in day-to-day iOS development, you're not going to use that kind of stuff. It really is just helping you for that interview. But it does give you a good baseline CS knowledge in data structures and algorithms. So that's always good knowledge to have, but you're 100% right. It's not stuff you're going to use pretty much every day in iOS development. Raji says, is this week the unit testing video? That's going to be next week, because that's another one that I have to build out a full example for. That's another one that's going to take a lot of pre-work. Not as much as concurrency and threading by any means, but so some of these, sometimes when I make a video, I can literally just think of it, sit in front of the camera and knock it out in 20 minutes. Other times, like the concurrency and threading, that takes a lot of prep work. Basic unit testing is going to take not a lot of prep work, but a decent amount of prep work. It's not going to be one of those easy videos. So that is why it's coming next week. This week is the Ask Me Anything, the leveling up your dev skills, and then a vlog. That'll be the 3 videos for the week. And then basic unit testing is next week, along with haptic feedback, I believe. Sean says, is core graphics or core animation very important to be a master? I wouldn't say it's important to be a master. However, understanding how to manipulate the graphics and animations in your app is a good thing. I love subtle animations in my apps, and a lot of modern apps, are going to rely on that. So I definitely think you should know it. Be a master of it, I don't think that's necessary. All right. I might need to get a moderator in this chat room, get rid of these spammers. Walter says, hi, I'm from Honduras, and I would like to know that you advise me to get a remote job in the USA. To be honest with you, Walter, I don't know how to get a remote job if I'm not inside the USA. I've never done that. I'm just going to go back to my general answer of networking, LinkedIn, Twitter, start trying to meet people and get in that way. Mark says, by the way, you can actually silence the spammer. It will lessen the distraction. Yes, I know, Mark. Like I said, I'm still on my phone right now, and I don't want to tap through menus and shake the phone and everything. So I'll just deal with it this time. But once I get my proper live streaming set up, yeah, we'll have to figure that out. Foxy, can you please explain how the Patreon community works? I think I kind of just did. I'll give a little quick 30 seconds on it again. So basically you go there, it does cost money to join, but you get rewards. It's not just like a donation. The rewards can be, you get to vote on videos every week. You're part of the Slack community, getting in there. And again, I'm going to say this every week. I don't make the Slack community for the paying people only just to make it like an exclusive club. It's because Slack communities can get out of hand when a lot of people join in. So this is a way to keep the numbers low and to keep the community actually useful. So it's just you go there, you support, and then you just get different levels of rewards. It can go up to just voting on videos each week, or a 30-minute one-on-one Skype session with me to talk about whatever you want to talk about. It's just patreon.com/Sean Allen. Go ahead and check it out. Pretty good community over there. There's only 20 people over there, so like I said, it's kind of small and tight-knit. You'll get to meet some other developers that are just learning. Reed says, have you met any developers at WeWork? No, I haven't. So when you sign up for WeWork, you post your profession and everything. So I have seen that there are, I think 7 other iOS developers in that office anyway. I just haven't been social, I guess. When I go there, I have my headphones in, head down there to work. I should, though. That's my fault. I need to network better there. But no, I haven't done that yet. Could you please summarize what would be the most used Swift concept in iOS development? Just briefly, if you can. The most used Swift concept, that's pretty, that's pretty vague. But I would go with optionals, for Swift development. Yeah, definitely learn optionals. That's probably the most common thing you're going to use. That's a hard one to answer. There's tons of stuff to learn. It's hard to pinpoint it on one. Omar says, I sent a message on Twitter. Yes, Omar, I saw that right before I hopped on. I didn't have time to answer it, but once I get done with the live stream, I go and I answer all my comments and stuff like that. So what book do you recommend to learn Swift from? I didn't really use books. I just use YouTube channels like my own like Let's Build That App, Brian's channel, go check that out. And then also just raywonderlick.com. I relied on online video tutorials. I didn't really do any books, so I can't really help you there. What are your thoughts on the Tesla Model 3? I think it's awesome. I'm a huge Tesla fanboy too, so the faster we get to autonomous driving, the better, and I think that's a huge step. Alistar says, hi, I'm from Zimbabwe. First time catching the live stream. Cool, good to have you, Alistar. Do you think mobile development is a better option for contracting compared to web development? I'm hugely biased. I'm not a web developer. I'm a mobile developer, and contracting is doing well for me, so I'm going to say yes, but that's just heavily biased because I'm a mobile developer and I don't know anything about the other world. So they're both certainly viable. Which one's better? That's hard for me to answer. Mao says, hey, I got a live, love your channel. Quick question. Compare selling apps and being a contractor, please. So selling apps, I imagine, is you're building your own apps and you're selling them on the App Store, whether that's in-app purchases or just selling a 99-cent app. That is a tough way to make a living as a iOS developer, especially if you live in a high-cost living area like here in San Francisco. I'm not saying it's impossible to do it, but as the market becomes crazy oversaturated with apps, it's very hard for an independent app developer to make money just selling a 99-cent app or selling in-app purchases. Again, obviously it's possible. There's tons of apps doing it, but if you were starting off as a developer today, and you can either go contracting or you could go selling your own apps, contracting is the much safer bet. Again, you could make that next app that blows up and be a millionaire, sure. That's possible, but the safest bet to make good money is to go contracting. Craig says, I think you remember you said that you were a veteran in your previous video. Yep, I was in the Navy. Have you ever considered working for the government in the software engineering field? I have not. I view the government stuff as kind of boring work. Sorry for anybody that works in the government. But I don't know. I don't know if they're doing anything exciting that they would need an iOS developer for. So no, I have not. But don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's some cool stuff going on in the government field. I'm sure I'll get comments on that. But for the most part, I don't know. Working in the government doesn't sound too interesting. Hello, have you tried using Clean Swift? No, somebody mentioned that last week in the live stream as well. I had actually never even heard of Clean Swift until last week. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but nope, I have not checked that out. Am I going to make a course with Brian from Let's Build That App? I don't know if I'm going to make one with him, but I definitely am going to make my own course sooner or later. It's hard to find hours, man. I keep bringing on all these new projects and I just don't have time for it. But eventually I will make a course, but not in the super near future. David said, have you thought about developing your own app? If I do, it'll be something on the side. I'm not going to, like I just mentioned, I'm not going to try to make a living off selling those apps. It'll be something that I'll make on the side. If I make a couple $100, a month on the side, cool. But it's not going to be like an income stream that I rely on, that's for sure. But I have a couple little games I want to make, because I want to play around with SpriteKit. I've done a bunch of SpriteKit tutorials, but I've never actually made an app in SpriteKit, so I want to play around with that some more. So if I did do that, it would just be a fun little app on the side, just to kind of play around. When you're contracting, how do app updates work? Are you reliable to update the app, or do the companies you contract with hire full-time developers to do that? So it depends. Sometimes you get hired just to go from zero to launch, and once you launch it, you're done. It's up to them. It really all depends on the contract and the client. Sometimes they do, you get up to launch, and then there's what's called a maintenance period. Maybe it's part of the contract is, yep, we'll launch it, and then we'll do 3 months of maintenance, which is 3 months of updates. So yeah, when you're contracting, it can depend. It all depends on how the contract is structured and laid out. Do you think having a degree in CS can give you more of understanding under the hood about the architecture of an app rather than self-taught devs? Of course, absolutely. This is from Emotions, by the way. Yeah, if you have a CS degree, this is just my opinion. If you have a CS degree, learning all this programming stuff and understanding how things work under the hood, I would assume it is a lot easier. Even just I just took some intro to CS courses, and just those intro to CS courses helped a ton. So I can't even imagine having the full degree in computer science. That would absolutely help a lot. I'm not saying self-taught devs can't learn it, but yes, if you have a degree in computer science, that is a great head start. Sean Cotton says, started with drag and drop yet with apps? No, I haven't. I'm assuming you're talking about the new iOS 11, mainly for the iPad kind of drag and drop stuff. I have not messed with that yet. None of my apps I make are focused on the iPad. Actually, some of them disable the iPad anyway. They're iPhone only. So I haven't had a reason to really dive into that, but I agree that's going to be a pretty big API and pretty common to use, so I do need to start getting good at it. Joe Ash says, thank you for the interview series. You're welcome. Still not done with it. Still got a few left to go. But my goal for that interview series is to just point people to that. Like if you're prepping for an interview, just point people to that series and have them be able to at least make it past that first screening. You know, once you do the coding exercises, you're on your own there. But at least with the iOS questions, hopefully that'll help. Will you apply to top companies like Apple, Google, Tesla? Yeah, that's actually in my plan. So I feel like that's one chapter in my career that I want to get on my resume, is working at a major company. Just for my long-term career goals, having that experience will help. Obviously, getting a big name on your resume helps open up doors in the future. But yeah, that is a chapter I want to do. So I think at the beginning of 2018, so the contracts I currently have are going to take me up through the end of the year. And then I think after that, I'm going to start exploring again at some of the major companies. So, because I did make those rounds early this year, but the truth was I wasn't ready for it. So I found that out, and like I know what it takes now. All the interviews I went through, 15 to 20 long interview processes. So I feel like I got good practice at that. I just needed to get better over this next year, and then go back at it early 2018. So that's the plan. I'll be vlogging it. You guys will be following along, hopefully. From where did you do some sprite kit tutorials? I did Ray Wunderlich. He has a book called like 2D gaming or something like that. It's all sprite kit. It's a huge sprite kit book. So when I said I don't really learn from books, I lied. That's the one I did learn from. All right. How do contractors like you handle the hourly pay? How do they know if you did something? I mean, there's definitely a trust factor. Like, yeah, you're right. They don't, when I log my hours, they don't know if I was watching Netflix or working. Like, I mean, that's just the truth. I'm not saying I do that. Not like, oh, that only took me 5 minutes to do. Let me go ahead and watch TV for an hour and then I'll bill them an hour. Like, no, that doesn't happen. But yeah, it is pretty much on the honor system. Now, they're going to know if you build 100 hours and you built one table view, like, they're going to be like, come on. Like, they're developers too. So they know if you're going to be in line with what they expect. If you're charging all these hours, you're not getting a lot done, then they're not going to work with you anymore, right? So you're not really incentivized to rip people off. But the answer to your question is, it is pretty much on the honor system. But your results speak for themselves too. Reed says, yeah, I've made a few apps using SceneKit and SpriteKit. They're super fun to work with, especially SceneKit's 3D scene editor. Yeah, like I said, I've dabbled a little bit. I just started to mess around with the physics engine in SpriteKit, even though I'm sure it's a pretty basic physics engine. But that was a ton of fun doing that in SpriteKit. Hello from Pennsylvania. Love your video, Sean. I'm a basketball junkie too. Always wanted to ask you, what is your favorite NBA team? So I don't have a favorite NBA team. I grew up a Bulls fan in the Jordan era, and then once Jordan left, I pretty much didn't follow a team. So now I just gravitate towards certain players. Because I'm a shooter, I usually gravitate towards the three-point shooters. So, and I live in San Francisco right now, so obviously the Warriors are who I follow the most. But I don't claim to have a favorite team. I just like certain players. You've done CS50 from Harvard as intro to CS. Yet, I mean, when I say I've done CS50 from Harvard, I'm not saying I didn't like apply to Harvard and get accepted. It's on iTunes U. You can actually go through that whole course, and I've done that. So no, I'm not like a Harvard student. I just did their online course. But yeah, I highly recommend it if you don't have a CS degree. You'll get a lot of the basics. Alex says, Sean, how do you see augmented reality features in the U.S. apps market? Did you notice any growing demand? Well, it's hard to say growing demand because it's pretty new. I think it's all going to change when Apple. I think as long as you have to hold your phone up and look through your phone, it's going to be slow going. I think once they start doing like the Apple glasses or crazy in the future contact lenses, whatever, that's when I think it'll take off, because it's still a pain to like hold up your phone and look through it. But if you're just wearing glasses and you're seeing all that stuff, I think that's going to be the turning point when AR really takes off. And Apple's glasses are rumored to be like right around the corner. Have you taken Stanford iOS course, and what was your experience? Did you like it? So I took that Stanford iOS course that everybody recommends, and it was one of the first things I did, and the truth is it was over my head when I did it at the time. I think it's a good course now. That I guess where I'm going with this is it's a great course to do. Don't do it first. Do it after you've been learning for a few months, and then that course will make much more sense. I don't think it's a course that you should do, out of the gate, but it is a good one. Can you speak to handling things like taxes as a freelancer slash contractor? Yeah, so I get 1099, so no taxes come out of my pay, so I have to self take taxes out. And I know you're supposed to pay self-employment tax. I'm getting out of my realm here, so feel free to correct me, as I'm sure I'll get corrected in the comments. But long story short, I basically just keep about 35 to 40% of my paychecks off to the side, and I just count that as taxes being taken out. And hopefully I'm overestimating, and then when tax time comes at the end of the year, I'll have extra money. But that's what I do. I just kind of withhold my own taxes from it. David says, "Are you hooked on any Netflix series?" House of Cards. That's what I watch the most from Netflix. There's a couple other ones. I like their documentaries. What is your degree in iOS development? No, my degrees are in finance and economics. Alan says, "Hi Sean, on Wednesday I'll start working as a junior iOS developer. First job. Congrats. Any advice for the first crucial month?" Work your ass off and impress them. I'm not saying you have to work 12 hours a day, but first impressions are real. And just like I mentioned kind of in my last live stream, the more you impress people, the more lucky you'll get. You'll just get a lot more opportunities in the future. It might not even be right now, like I mentioned earlier, how I got one of my contracts that I actually turned down was just from working with somebody at my first job. We worked together for a year. A year later, after we both left there, he needs an iOS developer. I was the first person he thought of. So basically start building your network at this job, Alan, or I always mispronounce iPhil, so I'm just going to call you Alan. So don't be thinking with just right now in mind. Think about building relationships that are going to last you potentially a lifetime, and could come back to help years down the road. So build relationships might be my number one piece of advice there. Have you considered doing podcasts on iOS topics? Yes, I've considered it, but like I said, I keep thinking of all these projects to do and side stuff, but I just don't have the hours in the day. I would love to do it, but I'm struggling to get YouTube videos out. As you guys know, only one came out this week, so I would love to, but man, I'm just one person. Not enough hours in the day. How much do you charge, and how do you know what to charge? So I did a video on my contracting rate. Go ahead and check out my channel. I won't dive into it too much here, but I get into all that. How much I charge, how do I charge, how did I figure that out? So go check out that video. It's just called, I think just my iOS contracting rate is what it's called. Omar is asking, "Hi, I can develop and upload apps to the App Store with a Hackintosh. Windows 10 PC with a virtual Sierra without getting banned. I don't have the money to buy a MacBook." I don't know. I don't have any experience building or using Hackintoshes, so I don't want to say no, you're not going to get banned and then have you do something. I would say better safe than sorry and not, but again, I don't know anything about Hackintoshes. Question: besides mastering UIKit, core data, networking, caching, what are the core libraries and frameworks you'd recommend? Everybody always thinks they need to learn core data. And I've mentioned this in previous live streams and previous stuff. I've never used core data. None of the projects I've worked on have used core data, and I've only talked to a few iOS developers who use core data all the time. So I think everybody has this misconception that that's one of the core things you have to learn. I don't really think that's the truth. But anyway, a little side rant over. But just really that's it. UIKit, networking, caching. Networking is the biggest thing. As long as you can hit an API and show the data, that's probably the biggest hurdle you got to get over. What do you think I need to know or should know as a junior iOS software developer? Again, that's a huge, broad, basic question. I always tell people, if you're trying to get your first job, the bare minimum before you should even think about starting applying is, as I just said, there's a 3-step process. You should be able to build a UI, hit an API endpoint, parse the JSON you get back, and show that data inside a table view. That's the main thing. You're going to do that in pretty much every single app. So if you can do that like without having to look it up and you know what's going on through that flow, that's kind of one good milestone, I would say, that you're, I'm not saying if you can do that, you're a developer and you're ready to go, but you ask like what key skills, that's for sure. Yeah, I'm just going to call you Alan. I'm going to always mispronounce your name, so yeah. iFreaks is a pretty good iOS podcast. Yeah, I did a video on my iOS podcast. It's kind of old because it's from like 6 months ago, and there are a couple new podcasts that I started listening to, but if you want my iOS podcast recommendations, check out that video. May I ask how expensive it is to live in LA? I mean, what is the main cost? I live in San Francisco, so I'm not sure. I know LA is not super cheap either, but San Francisco is arguably one of the most expensive cities in the world. I'm probably wrong on that, but certainly New York City and San Francisco are certainly the most expensive cities to live in the U.S. And it's all rent. Hi, Sean. I'm about to finish an iOS certificate at UC San Diego, I believe that is. I made a calendar app. Would now be a good time to look for freelance work? Thanks for doing this. If you can find it, sure. Like I always said, I don't think freelance work should be your first job out of becoming an iOS developer. And that is because oftentimes when you're contracting or freelancing, you're the sole developer on that project. And if you're junior, there's a lot of stuff you don't know. And if you don't have anybody to lean on and to ask, like, oh my God, I'm stuck here, how do I get through this? It's going to be tough being the only developer on a project. So that's why I recommend doing contracting after you've had like that first job and you've gotten a lot of experience under your belt, then kind of branch off into the contracting world. Again, I'm not saying it's impossible to not start, freelancing or contracting from the start, but that is probably the tougher road. But yeah, that's what I would say about that. What is your core data alternative that you use? So we just use like I said, the custom backends to save stuff onto the server. So all my apps, I think a lot of people get confused because they're using core data to build apps that you don't have to be online for. Basically, all the apps I work on are like Twitter. Like if you can't get online, like Twitter's pointless. It's kind of the apps I work on. If you can't get to the internet or can't get online, the apps are useless. So we don't really worry about like offline persistence. Reed is answering Omar's question about the Hackintosh. Do you ever get stuck when developing for an employer? Wait, hold on. Do you ever get stuck when developing for an employer? And what do you do when you're not sure on something? Can't find it on Stack Overflow? This ever happened? Yeah, so Philip, I get stuck all the time. I mean, that's life as a developer. You're gonna get stuck, even if you're 7-8 years experience. Something new comes out, like you're gonna get stuck. So yes, I get stuck all the time. Luckily, the agency I've been working with has a more senior developer that like reviews my pull requests and reviews my code. So he's who I turn to if I get stuck. I try to, and this is kind of good advice in general. Like try to figure out yourself. There's a balance. You don't want to waste 3 or 4 hours trying to figure something out that you could have just asked and found out the answer in 5 minutes, right? However, you also don't want to just only try to solve a problem for 2 seconds and then immediately go to that senior guy. Like that's going to annoy the hell out of him. You're not going to learn anything. You're going to be relying on him too much. So it's an interesting balance of don't waste too much time researching it, but at the same time, give it some effort to try to solve it yourself. So that's what I do. I try and solve it myself, and then if I'm just stuck and it's been an hour and I feel like I'm wasting time, then I'll reach out to the senior developer. All right, looks like I have one more question, so I'll answer this one and then wrap it up. Unless you guys have last-second questions, go ahead and get them in. I'll finish up whatever questions get in, but we'll be wrapping it up soon. Okay, so Sean says, what would you say the best backend for iOS? Golang, Node.js, Python, AWS, Firebase? I don't know. I'm not super knowledgeable about the backend stuff. I mean, I know a lot of people use Firebase, but like I said, I've been lucky, and in the agency I work with and the project I work on, it's in a team, and we have a designer, we have a backend web developer. So he handles all that stuff. I don't really have to do that. He basically just gives me a well-documented API with the endpoints all laid out, my responses laid out, and I just kind of work with that. And so I can just focus on building the iOS app. So that is a very lucky situation. I know not all developers have that, but that is the reason why I'm not super knowledgeable about building my own backend, because I work with a professional backend developer who handles all that for me. How many hours should I put on learning iOS? I'm taking the Stanford course and also reading Apple documentations. How many hours you should put onto it depends on your goals. I mean, if you're trying to become a professional iOS developer as soon as possible, then I would say every waking hour. If you're just kind of doing this on the side, then maybe not. It's hard to say how long you should work on it without knowing what your goals are, knowing what you want. Philip says, thank you. Thanks, Sean. Is app developing still a hot career by now? Well, I mean, eventually, like the smartphone's now been out for 10 years, right? Eventually, that platform is going to go away, just like every technology. So it's hard to say app development is a hot career right now. It's certainly doing well by me. Obviously, apps aren't going to be around forever, but in my opinion, I'm tied to the Apple mothership, right? By being a Swift developer, I can pretty much work on whatever product Apple comes out with, is how I view it. So app development may not be around forever, but forever is a strong word. But I feel like as long as I'm tied to the Apple mothership, I'll be good the rest of my career. I just may not be building apps. I may be building whatever, their VR stuff or AR stuff. Hi, Sean, thanks for your videos. It helps a lot of guys like me. I'm art director, designer in France who put the nose in lines of code. Days after days, I go forward from Sketch to Xcode. Yeah, that's awesome to hear that you're learning how to code. I think designers that at least know a little bit about how to code is a huge help. Because a lot of times designers will design a screen and they don't realize what they're asking for, right? Like that little animation you want to do, could be a couple days worth of development. So it is nice when designers can code a little bit and they understand that even small details can take a long time to build. Yes, I want to get this job by this winter, so how many hours should I put in? Again, that's 7. It's hard to give an exact number, but as many as you can. So, all right, guys, looks like that's going to wrap up the questions. Thanks for showing up, and we'll see you guys next week.